Hey, this is Jamie at Useful Knowledge. So last night I made homemade plum jelly. And let me tell you, this stuff tastes really great. So if you'll stay tuned, I'll show you how to make it and show you how to can it. Okay, what are we going to need to make our plum jelly? First of all, you need 2 pounds of plums. You're going to need sure gel and you're going to need sugar. And it's going to be 6.5 cups of sugar. And also, not shown here, we're going to need 6.5 cups of water. Okay, canning supplies. You're going to need at least 9 8-ounce mason jars, also known as jelly jars for this recipe. I always add in 1 extra, so go ahead and get 10 cleaned and ready to go. You'll need a spoon. You'll need a ladle for when you're putting the jelly into the jars. A canning funnel. Always have a lid lifter there to help me get the lids out of the warm water. And you're going to need bands and lids for each one of these jelly jars. So go ahead and get 10 of those ready. Pitting the plum is actually very easy, and my wife taught me how to pit these plums. So all you do with your knife is go in to the pit and then just start going around it. Go around it, and then you're going to come out. There's your pit, there's your plum, okay? So I just throw these away. This is what we're really going to use. You don't have to cut this up any more than what this is right here. We're going to boil these down to get our juice for our jelly. Okay, so you got about 2 pounds to do. It'll probably take you 10 minutes. Just keep going and get them done. Okay, I've transferred my 2 pounds of pitted plums over to my cook pot. And now what I'm going to do is add 6.5 cups of water. Okay, we're going to turn this on to a medium high. So we're going to get this up to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down and let it simmer. It's probably going to simmer for 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, our plums and water have reached the boiling point. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn that down to a low, and we're just going to let these simmer. And they're going to simmer at least 15 minutes. Okay, one thing to note, while these are simmering, you don't have to stir them much, but I may go in there once every couple minutes and stir them. Okay, this has been simmering for 15 minutes, and as you can see, the plums have broken down quite nicely. So what we're interested in is all this juice and water and everything in here. So we're going to turn this off, and we're going to let this pretty much steep for about 30 minutes. Okay, so my plums have been steeping in the water for about 30-35 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to strain the juice out of it through the cheesecloth and through this strainer into this stainless steel bowl. So we're going to do that now. Our ultimate goal is to get 5.5 cups of juice. When you're straining this, if you get it to where your strainer's full, just go ahead and pull some of that pulp out. That's what I'm going to do now. Get as much juice out of there as you can, but you don't want the pulp to fill up or you can't keep straining juice. And just keep going. Okay, we've strained our plum juice out, and we've got 5.5 cups, which is what we need for the recipe. So remember, we actually poured 6.5 cups into the pot at first when we were boiling down our plums. So you want to make sure you stick to that. Don't do 6. You need to make sure you do at least 6.5. That way when you can finish up with 5.5 cups of juice. Now, I probably could have strained for a little bit more and maybe gotten more, but the recipe calls for 5.5 cups. Okay, we're about to get started making the actual jelly now. So you need to go ahead and get 10 lids and put them in some warm water. So what I'm doing there, I'm putting my 10 lids, and I'm going to turn that on to a low. Just want that warming up. I don't necessarily want it boiling, I just want it warming up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get our plum juice in here. This is 5.5 cups. Okay, and now's the time to go ahead and make sure your jars are turned on in the oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, here's our 10 jars in the oven, and we're going to put them on at 250 degrees, and they have to be in there for 15 minutes. Okay, to get started, we've got our 5½ cups of plum juice in here. We're going to put 1 package of Sure Gel. Just going to stir that in. And people ask me all the time, says it clumps. Well, if you keep stirring, it will dissolve. Just give it a few minutes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn that on to a high. So the goal here is to get this up to a full rolling boil. That's a boil that will not subside when you're stirring it. Okay, I think I got most of the clumps out of there. Okay, now's a good time to go ahead and get your sugar ready. You're going to need 6½ cups of sugar. So go ahead and get that ready, because once this gets to a full rolling boil, we're going to boil it for 1 minute and then we're going to add the sugar. So you need it ready to go. Okay, we are about to reach the boiling point. It'll just be another minute or two and we will be at a full rolling boil. Okay, we've reached a full rolling boil. So we're going to stir this for 1 minute. Okay, this is boiled for 1 minute at a full rolling boil. Now we're going to add our sugar. Okay, we're going to mix that in, and we're going to bring this up to a full rolling boil as well. Okay, our plum jelly is hitting a full rolling boil. Now be careful here, because this can boil out. So you might want to adjust the temperature just like I'm doing now. Just keep that boil going, but you don't want it to boil out. So you folks with electric eyes, be careful here. Okay, I've settled out to medium high, and looks like we're going to sit right there and work this for about another 30 seconds. Okay, this has been at a full rolling boil for 1 minute. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn this off and we're going to can it. And I use the open kettle canning method. If you want to use the water bath, by all means do that, but I'm going to show you the open kettle canning method. Okay, if you have any skim, go ahead and get that out. Okay, that's enough getting that out there. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to get this hot jelly in these hot jars quickly. And then we're going to get the lids on. So I'm going to do that now. I always bring that just past the bottom of my canning funnel. That's usually the spot. Your canning funnel could be a little bit different, but as soon as you learn where you want the top of your jelly, you'll know where to go with it. Okay, so here's why you always have 1 extra. I got a little bit here left over. Get that little bit of skim out of the way. So we can eat this tomorrow. That's going to be about 1/4 of a jar probably, but we'll take it. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to use a damp paper towel. I'm going to wipe off the rims of these jars. You see I got a little bit of jelly there, and this is just to make sure, there's some jelly right there I can see. This is just to make sure that you get a great seal. Okay, what I do now is I take a lid out and I'll dry it. Okay, now I'm going to place it on a jar. This bothers some people, but don't worry. We're going to turn these over in a few minutes, and that's an old canner's trick, and it's in the old canning books, that any possible contamination that could have gotten on that lid from here to there is going to be destroyed when I turn the jars upside down and have that hot jelly get all over the top of that lid. Okay, now we're going to put our rings on. Remember, these are very hot because we're working quickly. That's the whole theory behind open kettle canning, is you got to work quickly. You don't want your jelly to cool down before you get the lids on. Okay, and at this point, we're going to tighten the lids down and we're going to turn them upside down for 5 minutes. We're going to do that to each one of them. Okay, we'll come back in 5 minutes and turn them back over. Okay, these have been turned upside down for 5 minutes, and we're going to turn them right side up. And as these cool down, they will seal. Now make no mistake, they're still very, very hot. Okay, we'll let them seal and we'll check them in the morning. Now, you will hear them start to ping probably in about 30 minutes, and that means they sealed. So it's early the next morning and all of our jars of plum jelly are perfectly sealed. And this recipe made some beautiful plum jelly. So I have folks asking me, how do you know if they sealed? Well, just press right there. If they don't give and then pop back up, you know they're sealed. So we hope you gained some useful knowledge on how to make homemade plum jelly and how to can it. Okay, it's early the next morning. We're going to check out our plum jelly. Oh yeah, this looks great. Alright, you can see how well that gelled.